Hi, I'm Jason Hennessey from Everspark Interactive. We are a search engine optimization firm. Here with me today is Toby Clements, who happens to be probably the biggest domain broker in the world, I'd like to say. He's got a very large list of people that buy and sell domain names. So what we do is very similar, but at the same time, it's different. I guess explain to the people that are watching this video your side of the equation.
Sure. My platform basically buys and sells domain names. Domain names are the actual raw property that you would buy first, and then you would build onto that and have a company.
So basically, after you acquire or purchase a domain name, let's walk through this for a second.
Okay.
So that, let's just say somebody just spent $5,000 on a domain name, and they bought it from tobyclements.com. Mm-hmm. They subscribed to your newsletter, they just bought this domain name. So what are some of the things that they should do? I wanted to just kind of get into that, because a lot of times your audience, your newsletter audience, will reach out to me just through introductions and stuff and say, what's next? How can I bring the value of that domain even higher than what it's worth? Because obviously I don't want to just spend $5,000 on a domain and just sit on it and make it $5,000. Right?
Right. And you know what? That's one of the biggest mistakes that people make out there. You know, you buy a domain name. A lot of people will have the best of intentions. They'll say they're going to develop it. They'll say they're going to do this, say they're going to do that. But inevitably, they put it into an account and they move on, and it collects dust. The key is to keep it out, keep it in the forefront, and build it. You can park it, you can test the traffic, you can make a little money that way, but somebody like Everspark comes into the equation and you can do a whole lot more with it. Mm-hmm. That's the exciting part.
Yeah, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, because we've done a lot of case studies like this, where we would just buy a domain name, you know, for even if you just buy an $8 domain name, or you buy a $500 or $5,000 domain name, right? So the value in buying, usually when you're spending more than $1,000 on a domain name, there's reasons why you're spending more than $1,000. Some of those reasons are SEO reasons, right? So you can buy a domain name that has history. Like a lot of times people don't recognize that the age of the domain is a very important variable for search engine optimization. Right? So, and a lot of your audience might not even know that, right? But if a domain, let's just say you buy a domain name that's just like a word that's in a dictionary, right? That domain name most likely has been registered since like 1995, 1996. Well, guess what? When Google starts to crawl and spider the web, they look at that as one of the first variables. What is the age of this domain name, right? So if you've got a domain that's been in business that's been in existence for 10 years, well, you've got the advantage over somebody that's just buying a domain and registering it today, right,
Absolutely.
from GoDaddy. And that's why I think the aftermarket is so important, because of the value, because most people that are buying this want their portfolio to go higher, not lower, right?
Well, and also the key is it takes a company such as yourself. It takes a company like mine that can bring the domain to the table. Once you have it, then what do I do with it?
That's right.
Somebody like your team, you guys are so experienced and so well versed, and you can educate people on the process to help them take a domain that they did spend $1,000 or they spent $10,000 on, and in a short amount of time, who knows what that is? It could be 6 months or it could be a year, but it could be worth 4 or 5 times what you paid for it. So it's just a matter of investing a little bit more money than a piece of property that you've already invested in order to make it more valuable.
Yeah, and so let's just go through the process here. So we know that the age is an important piece. We've got that. We can check that. So I bought the domain name from Toby. I spent $10,000 on it. It's got the age. What happens next? Yeah. Well, the first thing is you can park the domain name, right? And parking is it used to be a lot more financially beneficial to people. Yeah. Over the years, it's kind of it's not as financially beneficial to people. But you can still do that. That's one option if you don't have the resources to develop it. Another thing that you could do is you can just throw up a 12-page website, right? Just throw up a 12-page website. That's something that we do here at Everspark Interactive. Build it out, put unique content on it, make it relevant to whatever it is industry that domain is about. So if it's about baking, guess what? Put up recipes, put up something, some content, because that basically, again, is going to start the clock, and Google's going to crawl it, and they're going to index the words. There it goes. The other thing that you have to do, because this is the only thing that is really going to push you north as far as a value, is you've got to build backlinks back to the site, right? So Google's all about two things, and you know this. We go over this all the time.
Sure.
It's about relevance and it's about popularity, right? So if you've got content that's relevant to whatever it is topic that your domain name is about, well, the next thing you got to do is build popularity. And as you build popularity through link building, that's what we do. We do a lot of link building, the strategies that we execute. Even if you just throw in 10 or 20 links a month to your domain name, you're going to see your domain name moving up on Google, and you're going to see the traffic continue to go.
Absolutely.
And if it's a parked domain name, it's just going to just sit there. Whereas, you know, with a site that's getting traffic, it increases the value. And there's tools that you could even use, like SEMrush.com is a tool that actually will show you the value of your domain name just through the SEO eyes, really, because there's a different value with the, you know, with what you do, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But with the SEO, there's a value that you're adding. And when you take the both together, now you actually can either start businesses with these domains and everything else.
Yeah, and actually utilize them, you know, and that's the
Yeah.
key. That's the key. A lot of people have large portfolios. They'll have tens of thousands of domains in their portfolio, and they're just sitting there.
Yeah.
I mean, why not take some of the more premium ones and build them out and make them worth that much more? Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I just wanted to just kind of touch on that because a lot of times people ask me that question, people ask you that
Sure.
question, and I thought we should just record it, put it out there. And if there's questions or comments, please leave them, and we'll be happy to get to them. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thanks.